Hello, in this video I wanted to show how to download and install a TdBench tool so that we can generate some large data set in a database using the TPC-DS benchmark or TPC-H benchmark. So Teradata has this tool published and available for download on their website. And what we will do with it is we will generate afterwards a set of files for inserting data into TPC-H for TPC-H benchmarks that will provide us about 300 gigabytes of data. So it will be easy to use for testing the backup performance as well as other things. So to download the TdBench, visit this site. You need to be logged in and download this TdBench with the benchmarks generator, right? I downloaded it already, and now we will connect to our existing cluster that we deployed in the past. So I will go to the Viewpoint public IP that I added, and we will SSH into that VM. And from here, we will jump box into the first node in our cluster. Okay, and we are now on that node. Let's just zoom in a little bit here. So we have a bunch of drives. So we will download the file and unzip it in this directory because we'll be generating quite a lot of data. So let me go there, make a directory, and we'll wget it. So I downloaded the zip file, and I put it in storage location where I can download it from, just a temporary place right now. The first time it gave me an error because it was failing to check with the SSL certificate. And you can see the TdBench files here. Move it into this directory, and we'll unzip it. So we see these files came with it. Okay, and there is a file called untar.h, so we'll run that. And it's talking about what it will do. It will create the directories and it will unpack it. And then it will start this installation script. So also on the TdBench website, there are links to some great documents here. A PDF from Teradata describing it. There's a video recorded showing different functionality. And I opened the installation instruction document, and it's basically telling us how to install it. So prerequisites that we already have on the nodes and the tool to run. So this is what we did. We just unzipped it. We're on that, and we will respond to prompts right now to configure it. Okay, so let's see what we want to do to help update profile current benchmark none, set up database server and such. So we will say one. So we will call this, just give it a short name. I do. We'll put some encryption code here. Okay, so that was our preparation. Next, we see that it needs some passwords for the DBC root, as well as other things to configure. So I will configure those by setting them uh, in the following manner. So for example, I would put in a value and then put in a value here. So let's say my password is password 123. I'll set that, and I'll set password, and then we will do a write command for this. And basically when we write the write command, it will write the settings to a file. So after we wrote the information, we can press 3 to validate the user. So by running number 2, set up server, and then running number 3, it says successful. And then number 4 to create tables and users. Okay, so it creates the views inside of this database that we just pre-created. And we will check those in a second within uh, the BTech tool as well later if we want. Okay, so at this point we created the database. Now we're going to exit this tool. And what we will do is we will run the tdb.sh tool now, the one that's over here, to actually put data into a database that we need. Command for use for any query, monitor control stop, tools to prepare benchmark, and generate load execution tools. That's the option 4 that we will use. We are going to focus on the generate first, generate set of data in the background, define the tables and create the data loading script. So what is with data doesn't exist. So let's first generate data. We'll generate 1 gigabyte of data to start. Okay, so this will start executing and generating the data inside of files. So we will just pause the video and wait for it to finish in a few minutes. So we can see the data generation finished just now. And then let's create the database for this data set, as well as set proper permissions for this database, and then we'll test it. So to generate the permissions, I will just open BTech and we'll going to do it there. SSH 10004. So we're on the database node now. So we are connected to the server. Let's create our own database. I'm just going to copy and paste the command here. So we're going to use create database command, 10 gigabytes of data in there. And then we are also going to grant permissions to this database, to the AV benchmark user, under which the benchmark will run. Okay, so now we got that done. And then we can see the definition of this database, so how much was used and from this query. Okay, so at this point, let's do for define the tables, TPC-H 1G, TBC, we'll put the password here and run it. So the run finished and the data was created. And what we can see from the guides is that it's recommended to run the sample file that got created first. So let's see what got created. So we'll exit and we'll go into the tools directory. This is where the files get put, and then under scripts directory, it created for us the load and the serial command. So let's try the serial command first. So what we're going to do is going to say tdbench.sh exec scripts tpch1g serial.cmd and see if it runs on empty tables just fine. It submitted the queries and it finished. Okay, so now let's execute tpc1h1g load.cmd. Let's execute the load of 1 gigabyte dataset. And it's telling us that there are some errors. Let's review what those are. So to review the errors, we can see that the error says that the tdload command was not found. And it makes a lot of sense that it wasn't found because I forgot to install the tools, the Teradata tools that we need for this to work. And those tools are what that include this tdload commands, etc. So we need to install those on this VM. Right. So where do we get the tools? We get the tools from here. So we need to download the Teradata Tools. Let's see, TT Tools. We'll download this Linux package, and I already have downloaded it, and I'll just download it onto my VM here. So let's go back home. It will give an error about certificate now. Okay, no check certificate. So we download the tools package. We can see we installed them all here, and we'll install them now on this VM. So I ran the command setup, and it shows me which tools are available. So we want to install some of those. Let me see. Parallel Transporter Base is one of the tools. Okay, and now let's rerun the TdBench exec scripts TPC-H G load CMD. So by installing this tool, we are able to start the load process, and the load process is ongoing right now. So for example, we can check how the usage of this database will be changing. So you can see. So you can see the results finished right here, and the whole upload took some time, so it finished importing. Okay, and on the database size, we can see that it now uses 2 gigs. So it finished this import, and now we have a database with 1 gigabyte of data within it. The next step would be to start generating a much larger database. That will take some time to generate, so we'll just see what it is required to start it, and then we'll go from there another time. TP is okay. So we're going to go here. Um, we are going to define a database first that we need. So we're going to create a database within this. Okay, so we created the database, and we're also going to give it grant permissions to our benchmark user to this database just now. So that's what we did right over here. Okay, and then we're going to go back here and generate the data. This will take some time to run, and we will specify that we want 300 gigabytes. I'm going to put it in the same folder where we put the previous scripts. It will complain about it, and we will say yes. Initializing the data generation in the background, and it's right now running. So how do we know it's running? Let's quit and look at iostat and see activity. So we can see this is our disk onto which it's going to be writing. So that's the disk A, and you can see there's activity writing inside of that folder the data. You can also look at the top command, and you can see that it is right now running dbgen and generating the files. This will take quite a long time. So we will stop the video and then we'll look at it. Once it's done, we will actually execute the load command, this one, and this will provide us the actual results. So the import finished, and we can see generated inside of this directory. After a few hours of running, it generated a whole bunch of files for the import, for loading into the database. This is about 326 gigs of data. And you can see this is the data in the file, just random data for dbgen that was generated. And then looking at the portal, we can see it look, how many hours it took. So it started, let's say 9 p.m., finished by about 2 a.m. to process all of that data. So it took quite a lot to generate because it's a standard disk for where the data went. And then in the viewpoint, we can look in the database that got created. Right now it's still empty, 0 in it. That's the one where we will be putting the data next step. But the previous one we created, the 1 gigabyte, is, you can see there is data there, and there is approximately 150,000 customers in that smaller database, etc. So we will see what the larger one is. So what is the next step? The next step is to run this command again and to start loading the data into the table. So let us go in and create those load scripts. Let's just double check that they're not there yet. So you can see we have only the 1 gigabyte file, 1 gigabyte database load files, but not the one we need. So I'm going to go here, option 4, and we're going to define this schema and create the load table scripts. So number 4, I'll enter the password. So as you can see, it now table definition was successful, and it created for us these commands, and we will need to run the scripts to get this to work. So what it recommends as a best practice to run before we run the load command, to just run against the empty tables first. So take a look at what we have. We have the load, we have the serial command. So we're going to run this serial command first. Takes a second, scans the file directory. Okay, so let's see. Exec scripts TPC-H 300G serial. Let's just see if this command will work. This is querying empty tables, and it seems to have worked. And now we will start the load command. Exec scripts, and this one will take some time. Let's see. So it's starting. Let's see how the utilization is going to change here. So we're just watching some reads happening. So it seems to be kicking off. And we can see the reads are going and the writes are going. So reads are reading from drive where the data is, and the writes are going into this drive there. So let's go to the viewpoint for a second and actually check what data sets we already have there. So as you can see, operations don't allow the customer is being loaded at this time. So that makes a lot of sense. And then this data sets will refresh as we continue to run, right? This will show us how the utilization increases every few minutes. So basically right now, the loads are going on. We will just leave the loads happening, and this will probably take some time. So we'll return to it once everything is done. So the data loading phase finished, and we can see that our database is now 687 gigabytes in size. And if we do a quick query against the database tables, we should be able to see what we have inside of the table. So for instance, let's insert this database object here. So we have a table called customer. Let's just do a quick count of how many items there are. This is a large database now. So you can see the query finished, and we have about 45 million customers in the database, in this generated database table, and we can select a few. So this is a convenient way to generate some sample data to be able to run some tests, right? So these are the customers that the DBC generated. Great. So let's go and see how long did it take to run. So inside of our run folder, there is a logging directory. And inside of the logging directory in run 5 is the run that we're interested in. There is a file called the run log. So let's look inside of that file. And we can see that it took this many seconds to load the data. See, it was the load that was running, and the load data took approximately 20,000 seconds, so multiple hours to load the data into database. Here, because I was using a relatively slow VM with standard storage for the disk on which the data was. So at this point, what I did is I also went in and I increased, just in case, the spool space for the benchmark user. So it's very large, because when I was doing this tests before, I was running out of the spool space. So let me see if that will be sufficient, and we'll run the serial test now. Okay, so we'll exec scripts, and inside of scripts, we have our TPC-300G. CMD. So it's starting our tests right now. And these tests are going to go against the database. So let's see what the activity is. And we can see it already kicking off. So we can see the reads from this local disk at about 900 megabytes a second that it's reading. That's on one of the nodes. Let's SSH into another node and see how it looks there. And we can see it, so it's reading from both nodes at a very fast clip. That's great. Okay, so it's progressing the reads. And let us actually take a look at the information here. So it's reading right now. Let's see the system health. This is how our utilization looked. This is when it was running my previous test. It was running into trouble. This is when data loading was happening. So let's keep it at about 12-hour granularity here, maybe even 6. So that is the I/O, and that was the CPU. And we can see that we have an active query right now, and the active query is running right here. And by looking at this, we can see what it's doing. So spool space used, hat amp spool, etc. Okay, so this is the query that's running right now. So that's great. Where can we actually see the data being written to? How do we know what each query and each run took? There is a database that TdBench creates, and we can look inside of that database. That database is AVBench. So in my case, it's called AVBench because that's what I configured it like when I was installing it. So let's see test tracking table. So there's a test tracking table, and you can see there are different tests. Sold them by run IDs. And you can see right now it's running my serial load. Okay. And how many amps, some very useful information. And let's also now take a look at another table called the report view test details run 7. Okay, so right now it's running these queries, and we can it looks like we did not complete any runs yet, so even the first query is still in the middle of progressing. This overall test will take some time, and then we'll be able to see how long each query took. And this is basically, we can get this into Excel, analyze the data there. So right now it is in the middle of running, and this will take an hour or so to finish through all of the queries against the 300 GB data set. Once this completes, we'll take a look what the data looks like in the results set. So the run finished, that long run that we had, it's run 7. And let's quickly take a look at what the results look like. So if we do we look in the directory of the run stats, basically it's under this folder, run 07. You can see that it executed 22 queries. There were 3 queries that errored out. The average times per query was this, the maximum time per query was that, and it took about 1 hour to run. Okay, we can look at the specific errors by looking at the UL log, probably some conversions. So let's see what some of the errors were. Let's see, so these are every query that finished. We can see exactly how long it took. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there will be some overflow errors. So let's just do, you can see 3 overflow errors, and those were the ones that were happening during the run. So now let's go to the viewpoint and take a look how to see the run log statistics, right? So again, this is the database where we looked at before, and you can see I'm going to query the benchmark view called report test detail view with run 7. This is part of the database that the benchmark tool is using that I pre-create, right? So it has a few tables, it has a few views, and basically right here you can see some of the views, and mostly we're looking at this view called report test details. So let's take a quick look. This is specifically for test number 7. So we should see 25 rows, right? 3 of them will have errors. So let's see. Over here you can see the error code and error text. And right here is 1, 2, 3 errors, and the rest were successful. And you can see how long each one of the queries took. It should show the query names here. I'm not sure if in the view here it just doesn't display it, but you can see this query took this many seconds. So that is basically how you can view and the reports. And this TdBench tool provides a way to visualize it with Excel as well. Let's just take a quick look at one of these other views here to see how that looks. Report some queries. Let's try that one. Report some queries. And you can see it comes back for all the runs and all the queries that happened, how long each one took on average across all of the runs. So it's easy enough to compare them. And that is basically how you can view the details of the reports. Again, using the Excel visualization tools that are part of the TD benchmark that's downloadable. Probably you can visualize it better, but this is great place to look for the raw data. On the VM itself, we can see the detailed errors and other things, but inside of this views that it creates for us, we can actually compare those queries and see how they perform. So the convenience of TdBench that I found was ability to generate a lot of data relatively quickly and easily, data that's easily queryable. So we generated a 1 gigabyte and 300 gigabyte file, a database with a bunch of tables. And then I'll make another video showing how to back up this large database to storage and what performance we can expect depending on how many files we use. And that will be something that we can cover in the future. Thank you.